Okay. Hey, YouTube family. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to be starting soon in introductions. I'm just getting live here on Facebook as well. So just give me a moment as well. Okay. You see me nice and clear, I hope. Hope there's some good lighting. Hope this is good lighting for you all. So my laptop, and I also want to get on here on Facebook as well. So just give me a moment. Add subscription here. So what are we talking about? How to search. That's our topic. How to search for a mental health counselor. How to search for a mental health counselor and start counseling. How to search for a mental health counselor and start counseling. Okay. Okay. How to search for a mental health counselor and start counseling. Okay, get myself together here. All right, let's go live on Facebook as well. Thank you, YouTube, for being so patient with me. I love y'all. All right, good evening again, fam. I had to put my hair up in a bun because for those that know me very well, I really don't like my hair in my face, but to put myself up in a bun because it just was not working earlier. So today's topic is how to search for a mental health counselor and to start counseling. How to search for a mental health counselor and start counseling. All right. So you all need to just do your best to be patient with me, okay? I know sometimes I can be really quick in this area of counseling because this is what I do on a normal day basis. It's a huge part of my life, okay? So feel free to ask any questions concerning this whole process with searching for a mental health counselor and your start of counseling. All right, so first and foremost, I would encourage you, let me just start with this actually. Tis the season to start mental health counseling, okay? And I don't know who's all listening to this at this moment in time, but if you are in a space in your life, let's just say that you're dealing with depression or anxiety, you're dealing with some lack of boundaries, like you feel like you are very overwhelmed, stress. Let's just say that there's a lot of stuff going on with your job. Let's just say there may be family issues or problems or marital problems. Let's just say that you are trying to find yourself or find your identity. There's so many reasons why people start counseling, start therapy. All right. So what I have noticed throughout the years, one of the most challenging parts to actually starting therapy is actually searching for a counselor. Now, before you actually start your search for a counselor, this is something that I'm going to highly recommend for you to do. Take a moment with yourself and write down 3 reasons why you feel like you need counseling. Write down 3 reasons why you feel like you need counseling. Write that down. Okay? Write those 3 reasons down. Now, then what you're going to do is, depending on the state that you're in, you need to make sure that you are searching for a counselor that is licensed in your state. And I just want to apologize if I have not introduced myself. I know, Facebook fam, you can see my name on the screen. But I do know that there's some people on here that really don't know who I am. So my name is Kim Marie McLeod. I am a licensed professional counselor for the state of Virginia, aka LPC. All right. So that's what LPC means, licensed professional counselor. I am also the owner, by God's grace, and director and clinical supervisor of Right the Vision Advocacy Consulting and Counseling. That's Right the Vision Advocacy Consulting and Counseling. If you have not already, make sure you go over and you like and you follow the Facebook public page of Right the Vision Advocacy Consulting and Counseling. I'm also going to share a link in the description. Also, YouTube family, you need to go ahead and like and subscribe as well for more counseling content. So with that being said, let's just say you've already written down your 3 reasons on why you feel like you need counseling/therapy. Then you want to consider what state you are in. I reside in the state of Virginia. I am only licensed for the state of Virginia. Now, there's a lot of counselors that are licensed in different states, okay? But you have to, as a potential client, you must have the understanding that counselors have to receive a license within a particular state, and there's certain protocols and regulations and ethics that counselors have to follow and abide by for each state. So it's not like we go through school and we take a test and we're licensed for every state. That is not the case, okay? So please, you have to make sure that you are searching for a counselor that's licensed in your state. Now, like I said, there are counselors that may live in one state and they're licensed in multiple states, okay? I know some of those counselors, okay? So please take that into consideration. I am currently only licensed for the state of Virginia at this current moment, okay? So what you want to start doing is searching for a counselor. And I'm going to share with you some possible options. This is not the only option that you have, but these are some possible options for you with your search on finding a counselor. Okay. So the first option is, let's just say that you have insurance. Let's just say you have a form of insurance for behavioral care. All right. All insurances are not the same. All policies are not the same. Okay. So make sure that you are aware of the behavioral side of your health insurance. Okay. So there's generally will be like a medical side, then there's like a behavioral side. The behavioral aspect of your insurance is what may or may not cover your counseling sessions. And also, I want to also share with you, not every counselor necessarily accepts insurance, okay? There is even a process with that for counselors to receive, not to receive, but to be approved to take insurance. We call them like panels. There's a website that we have to like go to and use. And depending on whatever practice or contract work, there is a process. If I can just put it that way, there's a process for counselors to be approved to accept insurance for clients, okay? Now, with that being said, if you have insurance, I would encourage you to take a moment and either go on your health insurance website and search behavioral, whatever the behavior tab, an area of your insurance. And there should be an area where it talks about in network, because you need to make sure that your therapist is also in network with your insurance. So just because you may see a therapist that you desire to meet with and they accept your insurance, you have to make sure that they are actually in network, because sometimes a therapist could be out of network, and that means that you still have to like pay, out of pocket fees. So you just want to make sure that your therapist is labeled under in network, okay? Depending on your insurance, I know there's been so many changes with insurances, throughout the years, all right? But I know a lot of insurances now, you have like an online portal that you can actually access depending on your insurance, depending on your policy, and you can actually search the area of behavioral health, and you can actually search for in-network counselors that accepts your insurance. So that's one way. That's one way you can search for a counselor. Another way that you can search for a counselor, you can actually contact your insurance directly. All right. Depending on your insurance, this may be a quick phone call. And for other insurances, this can take a long time. All right. So that's why it's so important for you to really know the insurance that you're using, okay? Because some insurances have really great customer service, some unfortunately do not. But you can contact your health insurance directly, and you can ask them, could they give you some referrals for behavioral mental health counseling. They can share that with you via phone, or they can share that with you via email. Okay, it can be done. All right, you just have to advocate for yourself and make your request known. So ask them for an email. Ask them to send you an email of different referrals. Okay, so I just shared with you 3 ways you can search for a counselor. Okay, search your health insurance behavioral online portal database. You can call your insurance, ask them by phone. You can also ask them to send you an email. And sometimes there's like another link they could possibly send you as well. So that's one way that you can search for a counselor. Another way that you can search for a counselor is a Google search for your state and for your area. Now, if you are needing or wanting in-person counseling, there's still a lot of counselors that are seeing clients in person. You may just have to zone in your search more specific to your area, okay? And you just want to make sure that when you're searching, like say if you do a Google search, you just want to make sure you have the correct address. So you might want to make sure you call or email the counselor to make sure they're currently at that address, so you can be seen in person. But as we know, it's 2025. A lot of counselors now do telehealth. So, for example, like I said, I'm only licensed for the state of Virginia. So I can see clients all over Virginia. Long as they reside in Virginia and they're in Virginia during the session, I can see them. I currently reside in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So that means I can see people in Northern Virginia. I can see people in Richmond. I can see people in Virginia Beach. I can see people in Roanoke. I can see people all over the state of Virginia, okay, when I'm using telehealth services. All right. So that's so just to say you can also do a Google search. You can do a Google search and you can actually type in. This is why I recommended for you to actually write out the 3 things. There are 3 reasons why you want to start counseling, because you can actually use those 3 reasons. You could type in, counselor in Virginia that specializes in depression, or specialize in anxiety, or specialize in childhood trauma, or specialize in EMDR. All right, so you can actually type that in Google, and you'll get a listing of that. And I sure that's a way. It's an option to search for a counselor, because I noticed throughout my early years of doing private practice, I would say I want to say between 2019 till about 22. So 2019 till about 2022, I noticed a lot of my clientele that was coming in actually came from a Google search. Who would have thought? And I thought it was very, very interesting. Definitely back in 2019 and 2020, because I officially became licensed November of 2020, and I'm just like, it's not like I had a large Facebook or Instagram or YouTube following. I still to this day, I personally believe it was just the Lord that people was finding me on Google. But that is a great way to search for a counselor, a Google search. Another great way of searching for a counselor is contacting your PCP. If you have a psychiatrist, or you have another specialist, as in health, you have another health specialist. If you have a dietitian, nutritionist, ask them, do they have any counselors on their referral list? All right. When we're in this health profession, networking is so important. Referrals are so important. Definitely when you are a health professional that focus in on the whole person, you just don't focus on just the physical part or the mental, emotional part or the spiritual part. You focus on everything. Sometimes it's good to have a good referral list. I've also throughout the years received clientele from people asking their doctors, their family care doctors, and sometimes they will have a referral list of counselors. And sometimes I didn't even know these healthcare providers. I will ask, who is this person and whatnot, and come to find out, I don't even know. Somehow they found me on some type of database, which I thank God for. So that's another great way of searching for a counselor. Another great way on searching for a counselor is going on a portal, a website called Therapy Appointment. It's called Therapy Appointment. It is one of the many EHR systems that counselors use to add clients, see clients through. They use for documentation. It's all HIPAA compliant and all those things. And they use that also for different forms and documentation, all that great stuff, right? So Therapy Appointment, if you go on the website, I'm just going to try to use this for an example. So if I go to just Therapy Appointment, let's see if it lets me go on here without taking me directly to my my normal page. Let's see here. Therapy appointment. Okay, so if you go to therapyappointment.com, all right, and if you was to go to, let's see here, client, do they let you go to client portal? Client portal. Client portal. And by the way, it is, let's see here. As a client, you do not pay for that search engine, okay? Just give me a moment here. What I'm trying to do is to show you all find therapist. That's what it is. Therapy appointment, find therapist. That's what it is. Find therapist on therapy. Okay. So I believe if you should be able to go on therapy appointment and actually type in your area. Let's see here. Let's just hit Virginia and see what comes up. Okay. Okay, yep. So just type in, I know it says like type a name, but you don't necessarily have to. All you have to do, let's just say you type in Virginia and it'll give you a listing of therapists. And it's interesting. I see my cell phone there too. Just type in Virginia, therapy appointment, Google therapy appointment, find therapist. That's another great way of finding a therapist. All right. Also, too, another great way on searching for a counselor / therapist is growth therapy. Growth therapy is a great website to search for a therapist. So I use therapy appointment for my direct private practice, and I use growth therapy as my contracted database to see clients. So let me go back here because I'm just trying to help you all out step by step. So if you was to go to in your like Google search, if you just type in growth therapy and you just click on growth therapy, and at the top it should say on your, depending on the device that you're using, you would see a tab that says find therapist. So you click on that tab and then it would tell you find a therapist in state. So like I said, you want to make sure your therapist is licensed for the state that you are residing in. So what you'll do is you'll type in, for an example, type in Virginia, and then it says who accepts your insurance. So for an example, let's just type in Anthem. I noticed Anthem, for the most part, I would say for the past couple years have been fairly decent. Like I said, like I'm not sponsoring Anthem in any way. Anthem is not telling me to say this, but for the most part, I find Anthem is fairly provider friendly. I know a lot of counselors, they do their best to get approved with Anthem. All right. And I notice a lot of clients actually like the services they receive from Anthem. So for example, you type in find a therapist in Virginia who accepts Anthem and specializes in what is your need. Let's just say the first thing that comes up is anxiety. Let's check. They give you checks. So let's check anxiety. Let's check depression. Let's check coping skills. Let's check self-esteem and trauma, right? So they give you a listing of things that you can check that you may have some problems or difficult with. And then what you do is you click the search engine, just slightly click the search engine. And then guess what? You're going to find a plethora. When I say you're going to find a plethora of therapists, okay? I'm looking right now, they give you all these listing of therapists, okay? You just go through, read the bio, right? And I will say this, it is so I know that you may be in this space where you're so eager and you're so excited to start therapy, and you're just trying to find somebody to help you. But in this time, as you're searching for a counselor, I want to encourage you, please take the time to read the bio. Take the time to make sure they accept your insurance. Take the time to see, what are the expectations of whatnot through their therapy process, because every counselor is different. All right, there's no one size fits all. Every counselor is different, so please make sure that you're reading their profiles, okay? Another great website that you can also use to help you with searching for a counselor is Headway. Headway. I'm actually connected with Headway, but I actually don't have any clients with Headway because I am busy enough when it comes to my direct practice and with growth therapy that I don't necessarily need to use Headway at this moment. But I will say that let me see here. Fine, okay. So you go to Headway. You could, like I said, you could just do a Google search. You just click Headway. You can type and say Headway, find therapist. And when you do that, once again, it says up here, let us find your mental health provider. So what you'll do is you, of course, click on the arrow that says, where do you live? So, of course, if you live in Virginia, you want to type in Virginia because you want to get a counselor that's licensed in your state. And then it gives you options of your concerns. Let's say your concerns is ADD or ADHD, anger management, anxiety. Let's just click those. And then it says insurance carrier. Let's just say this time your insurance carrier is Aetna. And you click on find care. And then once again, you see, a plethora of counselors for the state of Virginia. I'm seeing many right now. I'm looking right now. All right. So that is Headway. All right. That is Headway. Put that in your Google search, Headway, find therapist, and you will find a therapist. Let's just say that you are in a really rough and hard time financially. And let's say that you don't have insurance, or say if you do have insurance, but your deductible is extremely high, and you're pretty much paying out of pocket. OpenPath, there's a website called OpenPath. That's another great search engine for finding a therapist that offers sliding scale rate. Okay, OpenPath Collective. And once again, it's openpathcollective.org. And once again, of course, you can put that in your Google search. You just say OpenPath. And then what you'll do is there is tabs that says find a therapist, about us, join for a therapist contacts. So of course you want to say find a therapist. Click on find a therapist. And once again, it gives you an option of in-person, online. And also, just to recap, both Growth Therapy and Headway both have counselors available that does in-person as well as online. All right. So we're looking, for an example, with OpenPath. I'm on here right now. I'm putting in your zip code. Let's say put your zip code in. Let's just say you're okay with 50-mile radius, and they give you an option of the cost of sessions. So they give you an option if you're willing to pay anywhere between $30 to $70 or $40 to $70 or $30 per session for student interns. Let's just say that your option is between $30. You can do possibly $30 to $70. You hit the submit button, and they give you, once again, several active counselors. Oh my goodness, it's interesting. I actually see people on here that I know right now. That's really interesting. So you can just go on here and they give you a listing of counselors that are active, that's willing to do a sliding scale with Open Path Collective. So, I just want to encourage you all that there is a way for you, and actually searching for a counselor does not have to be stressful and overwhelming. Your situation right now that you're going through right now is already a lot. So why should we make searching for a counselor difficult? Okay. So those are some really great ways. Like I said, checking with your insurance, doing a simple Google search, contacting your medical specialist. They should have some referrals. I've mentioned therapy appointment. I mentioned growth therapy, Headway, and Open Path Collective. It's just some of them, okay? I would highly recommend to try out those options. That's why I'm sharing it with you. And more than likely, you should have some success with searching for a counselor. Now, with you searching for a counselor, so let's just say, as we're with the other part of this video here, let's say that you found a counselor that you feel like you may have a good rapport with. What I would recommend is doing a consultation. A lot of counselors do a free consultation call. They may ask you some basic questions, the reasoning for therapy, of your, do you have insurance? Do you plan on self-paying? What are some goals you're trying to accomplish? And just to see, and it's also an opportunity for you as a potential client to also ask some questions for the counselor. You want to make sure that you want to talk about scheduling. Would that even be possible with scheduling? Like, for an example, with myself, I only see clients Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and that's it. And I may have one meeting on a Thursday and a Saturday, like once or twice a month. So I make that very clear at the very beginning. Only able to have meetings Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. From 10 to like 10 a.m. to like 6 p.m. All right. So you, as a potential client, you want to make sure that you're able to be seen on your availability. I will say this too: if you're only wanting to see a counselor when you are off of work or after work, just please note that may be challenging. All right. So one thing that you may want to consider advocating for yourself is bringing this forward to your workplace and requesting that you're able to have a counseling session once a week or once every other week during your work shift, depending on the job, depending on the business and company. They're not able to deny you. There is something called reasonable accommodation. So you want to make sure you're advocating for yourself and your rights and your responsibilities as an employee, because there are many clients that are approved and able to take an hour out of their shift once a week or once every other week and have a session during their work shift. And this is not considered a lunch break. Okay, this is not considered a lunch break. This is not considered a vacation time. This is time for your mental health, because if your mental health and emotional health is not together, how can you continue to be productive with your job. And you just need to have the conversation with HR or with your supervisor, or whomever is in charge that can help you get that taken care of. And if sometimes there's like a form that you may need to fill out, and it's okay if you don't want your workplace knowing your business. That's absolutely okay. But just know that is an option that may be available to you. All right. So with that being said, let's say you found your counselor, right? And now what, right? You're thinking, okay, I've had this conversation with this counselor. I'm feeling okay, or I'm feeling really good about this. What else? All right. So you want to make sure you got all your questions answered when it comes to insurance, or self-pay, even co-pays. You want to make sure also, if you're using your insurance, you want to make sure that you have the right information when it comes to your insurance. Because like I said, every insurance is not the same. Every policy is not the same. So you want to make sure that you have the appropriate coverage for behavioral health care, okay? Because sometimes people have enough coverage for their medical health care, but they don't have enough coverage for their behavioral health care. So you just want to make sure most times it's on your insurance card, sometimes it's not. But you want to make sure you're reviewing over your behavioral health care part of your insurance. You want to look, and most times they should have like a copay listed in the area where it says behavioral care or specialist. It normally will say a copay. It will sometimes also say if you have a deductible. If you are not sure or it's not clear on your card, you need to contact your insurance directly. You need to make sure you have the right information. You need to have it in paper form. If they need to email it to you, or if it's in your online portal, make sure you have that information. Because your counselor is not necessarily able to really know. They're not going to know unless you let them know for sure. But what happens in your first session, which is considered the intake, once the intake is completed by the counselor, it is submitted to your insurance billing, and then the insurance determines if they're going to approve that intake and how much you will be owed, as in your co-pays or any type of deductibles. All right. So you want to make sure you have that information before you even start searching for a counselor. Okay. What I also want to make mention to get you ready and prepared for counseling, because I don't want you to be blindsided, and I don't want you to be shocked once you have your consultation and you find out what is needed for your session. Okay, so I'm going to pull up just a basic template of an intake and what questions you need to be prepared for to answer. And this is a good time to answer these right now, before you start counseling, right? So let me go ahead and pull up an assessment here, not assessment, but an intake template. I'm going to pull up an intake template. Intake form is normally what we call it. So you want to, like I said, you should already have your three reasons why you want to start counseling. These are some other questions that you might want to consider asking. So we already mentioned your reasons why for seeking care. Also, you want to write down any problems or issues that you're seeing at the current moment. Also, I'm reading from my screen here. What are some goals? For therapy, and what would you like to accomplish? All right. You also need to kind of do a reflection with yourself. Like, do you have any medical issues? Have you had any prior illnesses or operations or accidents? Are you taking psychiatric or behavioral medications, or are you taking any other type of medications? Um, do you have a primary care physician? You want to have that information, all right? Are you and also too, you also want to make sure you're able to answer, have you had any other prior mental health treatment? That means if you had any other experience with another counselor in the past, even if it was just for one session, you want to make sure you have that information, all right? Because this information is what's going to help your counselor help you. And also, you know, helping you to be accountable to, like, what is exactly what we're doing here? How are we getting started? Okay. Also, have you ever been hospitalized, for mental emotional health issues? Do you currently use or have used in the past any substances? That's alcohol, any other drugs, marijuana, any other, opiates and things like that. You want to make sure that you share that in there as well. All right. So that's a good start. And also, too, you also want to start listing out your emergency contacts. I generally would recommend for you to have 2 emergency contacts. Understandable, you can just have one, but I always recommend having 2 emergency contacts, because guess what? Anything could happen to one of your emergency contacts when you're in a crisis. And who is that secondary person that you can also reach out to during that time? So just something for you to think about and consider, all right? And also, too, you want to consider if there's any like release information forms that you want to share. So for example, let's say you had a former counselor and you don't mind your new counselor to reach out to that counselor. You can definitely add a release of information for that. All right. And I'm just pulling up another form here to also help you in this process with getting started. Okay, let me see here. Is there any other important intake questions that you need to answer on your own? Okay. Also, too, you want to be very honest with yourself. If you had any issues with any type of suicidal thoughts or attempts, past or present, that is very important as well. Please, this is the whole purpose of counseling, right? You don't want to have those types of secrets. Also, too, you can also list out, is there any history of mental health issues in your family? That can be mom, dad, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles, even if they may not been even though if they may not been diagnosed, or even if they you may suspect there may be some issues, you need to list that out. Also, you want to share your current living situations. Of course, you want to list out what is your level of education, your occupation. All right. And so, try to be as specific as possible with, the reasoning why you are starting counseling. Okay. Very, very, very important. All right. And so when you start, let's say when you make sure when you're starting with therapy, just make sure that you have all the necessary intake forms completed. So for an example, let's just say that let's say you're going to start your counseling process with growth therapy. Okay, growth therapy actually has a few like assessment scales. Like I want to say they have like a depression, anxiety, and a quality of life scale. So you want to make sure you're answering those questions 100% honest with yourself. And you want to also fill out your intake form and answer those questions. Please do not rush through it. Like I said, I know that you may be really eager to start your therapy and counseling journey, but you know it really is not as helpful as it can be if you just rush through it and put 1 or 2 word answers, because we're going to have to go back and actually review it and go more in detail with your concerns. So please make sure that you are taking your time, you're giving yourself time, you're making time to go over these intake forms. Okay, when you start your counseling, when you start your first counseling session, which we normally call it an initial session, please know that this is like information gathering. All right, you have to realize at this point you and your counselor are two complete strangers. Okay, it's going to take time, the develop rapport. Is going to take time to trust. All right, just know that you just need to be 100% honest with the counselor. Okay, your counselors, they only know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. Counselors, are not mind readers. Okay, as great as some of us are, we don't know everything. Okay, we may have a sense of of some things that may be going on, but until you state it and we have facts, that's all we can work on. We can only work on facts. Okay, so you really need to be honest and be patient with this process. And so if you're using, for example, like I said, if you're using the growth therapy, you need to make sure that you complete your informed consent form, your intake form, and your assessment forms. Okay, and then if you choose to go the therapy appointment route, let's say for an example, you want me, say if you're inquiring for me to be your new counselor, these are the forms that you want to be prepared to fill out. All right. So what generally happen is there will be a link sent to you either by email or text message for you to create your username and password, and you have your own profile that you can complete your documents, and that you can also communicate with your counselor through that too. But for an example, there's some examples of my forms that I use. We'll have like an informed consent service agreement form. You have to complete an authorization for electronic communication, a consent form for treatment via telehealth. There's a consent to release information. So you would need to fill out a release of information for your emergency contacts or any other specialist that you would like for me to speak with. Also, there's also a fee agreement, of course, and there's also a HIPAA notice of privacy practices, and also there, of course, there will be your standard intake. So those are all the forms that I currently use when it comes to therapy appointment. Something for you to be prepared to fill out. Okay. So also too, as we close up here, as you're getting ready for your very first ever counseling session, you want to make sure that you are in a private place by yourself in the state that your counselor is licensed for. So for an example, let's say that you are in Virginia. Please do not be in the state of Tennessee when you're about to have your first session, because more than likely your counselor will be unable to meet with you. So just make sure that you are in the state that your counselor is licensed to practice. And, if you're in your home, you need to make sure that you have a room to yourself. If you're living with other people or whatever, you just need to make sure that you have privacy. You need to be in a room by yourself. All right. You need to make sure that, no one's hearing in the conversation, maybe have some, headphones or something on or whatnot, or have a session when you're going to be completely by yourself. If you're going to be in the vehicle, you need to make sure you are parked, and you need to make sure that you're in a safe place, and you need to let your counselor know where you are, just in case for a crisis emergency. All right. It is not appropriate and it's not safe for you as the client for you to be driving during session. And more than likely, if you are driving when it's time for that intake session, that initial session, more than likely your counselor will not be able to see you. All right. So you just want to make sure that you have set aside that 1 hour of time in a private location. You should not be in Walmart and Target, at the mall, at the gas station. You shouldn't be at the nail salon. You shouldn't be at the hair salon. You need to be somewhere private so you can openly disclose and be vulnerable and be honest with your counselor. All right. So that is some tips and advice for you as you're starting to search for a counselor and to start counseling. Okay. So I look forward to sharing more things on the admin side when it comes to kind of starting out as a new client, and some things that you can do to be successful in your counseling and therapy journey. Okay, so I'll keep it limited to that for right now. Please feel free, if you've been able to get to the ending of this video and you have any questions, comments, and concerns with searching for a counselor and how to continue to be prepared for your first ever counseling session, please reach out to me. My counseling number is 757-773-7488. That number again is 757-773-7488. Am I currently accepting new clients? Yes, but a huge but there. My schedule has limited availability. All right. So if you're searching for a counselor and you would like to inquire and to see if we could be a good fit, please note I cannot have a dual relationship. So if I already know you as a friend or a family member or a close acquaintance and things of that nature, I am unable to see you because I will be in violation of having a dual relationship. All right. But if you need help, if I know you and you need help with searching, use these options and I can maybe send some names your way. Another great option that I did not even share, and Lord God, forgive me. Lord, forgive me. Lord, have mercy on my soul. Another great option of searching for a counselor. Now, this is specifically for those that want to consider their Christian background, specifically their apostolic and Pentecostal background, that you're wanting to only meet with a counselor that has a similar or same doctrinal background when it comes to being apostolic and Pentecostal. And yes, I am apostolic and I do consider myself apostolic Pentecostal. And so a great database, and Lord forgive me, y'all, for not sharing this first and foremost, but you want to go to www.apostoliccounseling.org. That is apostoliccounseling.org. This is the Center for Apostolic Counselors. And what you do is you go on here and you go to find counselors, and Once again, just a full listing of apostolic counselors all over the USA. Okay, really, really great counselors. I currently actually refer, clients that have to move to another state that I'm not licensed to. I also send clients this way as well. For the state of Virginia, we have a few on here. So we have the Center of Solid. We have at this moment, we have 6 on this website, but I know there's more. That's the thing. I know there's a lot more apostolic counselors in the state of Virginia. But if you're looking at this website, there's 6 of us that's listed on here. All right. And I know, well, I'm on here as well, but I know 4 of these counselors that I would definitely highly trust. But I think one of them are not taking new clients right now. So the Center for Apostolic Counseling, you can also do a Google search. Just put in the Center for Apostolic Counseling. They also have a Facebook page, and they also have an Instagram page. And if I'm not mistaken, they also have a conference coming up too. So make sure you go check out their Facebook page and their Instagram page, and go check out the website, the Center for Apostolic Counseling. I cannot believe I forgot to mention that at the very beginning when I was sharing all the possible ways to search for a counselor. Okay. And let's see here. Yeah. So say all that to say, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, with anything I've said so far, please reach out. Send me a DM, send me a text message or a phone call at 757-773-7488. My email, you can also contact me through my email, which is writethevisionacc@gmail.com. That's writethevisionacc@gmail.com. So I'll let y'all have that. Also, too, if you have not already liked and followed, if you have not followed and liked my private practice, Write the Vision, Advocacy, Consulting, and Counseling public Facebook page, please go ahead and follow that page. I have a goal to have at least 100 people by the ending of May. So by the ending of May of 2025, I need at least 100 people following on that page, okay? And also, too, if you have not already, make sure you like and subscribe at my YouTube channel. At Write the Vision, Advocacy, Consulting, and Counseling as well for more counseling content. All right. So I hope this was a blessing for you all. I hope this was helpful for you all. And I look forward to meeting with you all very soon. All right. I love you all. I just pray for a happy and blessed search and a great first counseling session for you in the future. All right. I'll talk to you later. All right. Bye now.